I was a solo driver. I was making a delivery in Chicago, IL. The receiver kept me there for so long that my clock ran out in 7 hours, and I had to go to Chicago to the Tail Petroke for my 10-hour reset. When I got there, I had to park in the very back and very dark part of the lot. I took my dog, Noodles, out to relieve himself. While I was walking him, I saw a man at the back of a trailer just standing there. He made me nervous, so I hurried my pup and rushed him back to the truck. After that, I got out of the truck and started walking to the store so I could eat dinner. While I was walking, I heard footsteps behind me. When I turned to look, it appeared to be the same man I had seen behind the trailer, and he followed me the entire time. No matter how circuitous of a route I took, he trailed behind me. It freaked me out, but I wasn't really scared yet. When I got inside, I found that the store was packed, and so was the restaurant. So, I went and got a seat at the bar before it could be taken. I ordered my food and waited for it to come. Halfway through my dinner, my bladder reminded me that I needed to use the bathroom. So, I told the waitress I wasn't finished. I just had to go potty and that I would be back. When I returned to my plate, my fork was on the right side of my plate. I looked around and didn't see the man who had followed me inside, but now I was scared. I'm left-handed and always put my utensils on the left side of my plate. Something was done to my food. I called the waitress over, still standing behind my chair, and asked if she had messed with my food. She said no. I asked her if she saw anyone else mess with it, and she said she was too busy to have seen anyone. She went and got the manager. I told the manager about the man who had creepily followed me to the store and then disappeared when I entered. He got me a new meal and moved me to the seat closest to the office. He went into the office and came back out a few minutes later and sat down in the booth across from me. He said, I looked through the camera feed, and a man did indeed come to where your food was sitting while you were gone. He put something in your mashed potatoes, stirred it, and left back outside of the building. We don't have any cameras in the truck lot, so I don't know where he went. I don't want you to leave the store alone, and I also need to report this to the police. Do you mind if I call them? I told him no, I didn't mind. So I sat there after I finished my meal and thanked him as he brought me a piece of pie on the house. It was delicious. When the police came, they took a report and searched the grounds for the man but didn't find him. After a few hours in total, the police officer told me he would drive me back to my truck. Then he said he was going to ask his boss if they could post a police officer out there all night to watch for the man. The boss agreed, and the entire night, there was a police officer parked in the deepest, darkest part of that lot, keeping watch. I appreciated it immensely. The man was never caught, but nothing bad happened to me or anyone else that night. I'm thankful to those police officers to this day. As a truck driver with 6 years on the road, I had seen my fair share of strange and bizarre occurrences. Night after night, the open highways revealed the unexpected. But nothing could prepare me for the horror that awaited me one fateful night in Ohio. I had just finished a long haul and was eager to find a place to rest. As I drove, fatigue began to creep in, and I forced myself to stay alert. Suddenly, a flash of headlights caught my attention. A vehicle overturned on the side of the road, its twisted metal glinting ominously in the darkness. My heart sank as I pulled over, instinctively knowing that someone needed help. I stepped out of my truck, the cool night air wrapping around me like a shroud. The scene was chaotic. Shattered glass littered the ground, and the car lay crumpled like a discarded soda can. My stomach churned as I approached the wreckage, dread pooling in my gut. I peered inside and my breath caught in my throat. The driver was slumped over the steering wheel, blood pooling beneath him. He was lifeless. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my phone. desperate to call for help. But no signal, nothing but static and frustration. I felt utterly helpless. Just as despair began to settle in, I heard footsteps behind me, crunching on the gravel. I turned slowly, expecting perhaps a passerby or another good Samaritan. But what I saw made my skin crawl. Standing there was a man, disheveled and covered in blood, his clothes torn and tattered. He looked just like the driver in the car. Same build, same features, but something was off. A chill ran down my spine as he reached out and tapped me on the shoulder. "Help, Meg," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper, slurred and incomprehensible. My heart raced as I glanced back at the vehicle where the body remained motionless. How could he be here? Was this some kind of sick joke? The man in front of me bore the same haunting visage as the one trapped in the wreckage, yet he was somehow alive. Or was he? I stumbled back, my mind reeling with confusion and terror. "What do you want?" I stammered, my voice trembling as I struggled to comprehend what was happening. The bloodied figure seemed to sway slightly, his eyes wide with panic as he pointed back toward the car. "Brother trapped," he gasped, his words barely coherent. I felt my stomach twist at the implication. Just then, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as they approached. Relief washed over me momentarily, but it was quickly overshadowed by dread as I turned back to face the apparition before me. He was still there, blood dripping from his face as he continued to mumble incoherently. "Help him, please." His voice was filled with desperation, and I felt an overwhelming urge to flee. My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape this nightmare, but something held me in place. As the police and fire trucks arrived, the paramedics quickly extracted the lifeless body from the car, while others worked frantically on the man before me. It felt like an eternity as they fought to revive him, but deep down, I knew it was futile. The bloodied figure continued to plead with me through muffled words that made no sense. They began working on him and found out he was the identical twin brother of the driver. They both wore the same clothes, and of course they look exactly alike. I was really shaken up. I actually thought I seen a ghost, and he was mumbling, trying to talk, and I was ready to run my behind out of there and leave my truck. A cold chill settled over me.
My name is Daniel, and I am a retired truck driver. I've seen many strange things. A lot of people don't believe me, but it starts off in Stockton, California, where I picked up a load of pipe. My destination was Salt Lake City, Utah. I was supposed to refuel in Barstow, California at a truck stop, but lo and behold, they were out of fuel. I told my supervisor, "Hey, I've got like half a tank of fuel." He told me to continue and hit the first truck stop I saw. So, 100 miles into Nevada, with nothing but desert around me and a few sparsely lit towns, I noticed my gauge reading empty. I thought that didn't seem right. I took the first exit I saw and pulled over. I informed my supervisor, who was about an hour away, that I was afraid to continue on and run the tanks dry. He told me to sit still, and he would be by in an hour so we could siphon some of the fuel from his tanks into mine. As I sat there, I noticed that it was a small town with sparse lighting. I couldn't run the engine, so I couldn't listen to the radio. Instead, I sat there in silence. I don't do drugs, and I didn't make this up, so listen carefully. As I sat there, I noticed a lot of undone construction, a dark trailer park to my right, and a church off to my left about a block away with its lights on. And when I saw a crow hopping around my truck, it kept hopping around and staring at me. Feeling hungry, I noticed what looked to be a convenience store another block away from the church. I got off the truck and decided to walk to the store. While walking, I kept hearing a dog howling as if it were in pain. As I passed the church, the two doors were wide open, and I heard clapping as if they were having services. When I looked inside, there was no one except for a skinny old white man reading from the Bible and talking about hell. Not wanting to linger too long, I continued past the church. Then I heard clapping again, and the dog started howling once more. I noticed a bunch of empty houses on the street that went uphill, still making my way toward what I thought was a little mini-mart. The dog kept howling as I entered the store. An old lady with glasses was reading a book. There was hardly anything in this store. Maybe a few cans of food and a couple of bags of chipsa. Only water was in the refrigerators. The whole time, the lady didn't even pick her head up from the book. I grabbed a bottle of water and some chips since I was hungry as hell and there was nothing else to eat. So I asked the old lady if this was all she had and where everyone was. She told me that everybody moved out and that new construction was supposed to begin about 6 months ago. After that, she didn't say anything else. I paid her and walked back toward my truck. The dog was still howling as I got closer to the church. Looking up the street towards where I heard the noise from, I decided to see for myself why the dog was making such a racket. The houses on both sides of the street were boarded up and dark. And then I saw a house with its lights on and a 5-foot fence surrounding it. When I looked over the fence, I was in shock at what I saw. A man in his underwear with a chain attached to his neck on all fours howling. The hairs on my arms and neck stood up as another man burst through the back door, kicked the man on all fours, and yelled at him to shut up. The man then ran into a doghouse. I was in shock and turned to run back down the hill to my truck. As I passed the church, both doors were still wide open, but there were no lights on anymore, and I could still hear the clapping. Finally, I made it to my truck and called my supervisor, telling him what I had seen. I urged him to hurry and get there so I could leave. My supervisor asked which exit I was talking about, and when I told him, he said, "Oh, I passed that." He had to turn around and come back to get me. So I sat there, and the crow was still hopping around my truck. It stopped and looked up at me as I sat inside. I'm not saying the crow spoke, but this is what I heard. "Leave." I rolled up the window and waited for my supervisor, who showed up 5 minutes later. I told him what had happened, and he just laughed at me, saying, "I'm going to have to drug test you." I did not sleep on that whole trip to Utah until I reached Salt Lake City. I had been on the road for over a decade, and each night was just another chapter in my life as a truck driver. But one fateful evening, I received a last-minute delivery request that would change everything. I picked up a load of mysterious crates from a warehouse on the outskirts of town, marked with strange symbols and ominous warnings about hazardous materials. I didn't think much of it. After all, it was just another job. As I drove deeper into the night, rain began to pour down in sheets, making visibility nearly impossible. I switched on my headlights and focused on the road ahead. My destination was an abandoned industrial area outside of Tauna Place that had been shut down for years. As I approached, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The road seemed to twist and turn in ways that didn't make sense, almost as if it were leading me deeper into a maze of shadows and fog. Just as I thought about turning back, my truck sputtered and came to an abrupt stop. Frustrated, I stepped out into the rain to check under the hood. As I fiddled with some wires, I suddenly heard whispers coming from the crates in the back of my truck. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me due to exhaustion, but then I heard it again clearer this time. Let us out. My heart raced as I turned around to face the cargo area. The crates were shaking slightly, as if something inside was trying to escape. Panic set in. I knew I had to get out of there. And just as I climbed back into the cab, a figure appeared in front of my headlights. A woman dressed in tattered clothing, with wild hair and hollow eyes. She raised her hand as if pleading for help. I slammed on the brakes and skidded to a stop just inches from her. "Get away from me!" I shouted, my voice trembling. But she didn't move. Instead, she pointed toward the back of the truck. "You have to let them out. They're trapped!" My instincts screamed at me to drive away, but something compelled me to look back at the crates. The muffled cries grew louder, pleas for freedom echoing through the rain-soaked air. Against my better judgment, I climbed out of the truck once more and approached the cargo area. As I unlatched one of the crates, it burst open with a loud bang. Inside were writhing shadows, dark forms that twisted and contorted on eerie in mechancyters. They reached out toward me with ghostly hands, their faces twisted in torment. "Help us," they cried in unison. Terrified, I stumbled back as an icy wind swept through the area. The shadows surged forward, enveloping me in darkness. I could feel their cold fingers grasping at me, pulling me closer into their void. With one final desperate attempt to escape, I sprinted back toward my truck and jumped inside. I slammed the door shut and locked it tight. But no matter how hard I tried to start the engine, it wouldn't turn over. The woman stood outside my window now, her face twisted in anguish. "You must help them!" she screamed as rain poured down around us. My heart raced as I realized there was no escaping this nightmare. The shadows began to close in around me. I could feel their cold breath on my neck as they whispered promises of eternal darkness. In one last effort, I threw open the door and ran into the night, leaving everything behind: the truck, the crates, and whatever horrors lay within them. I never spoke of that night again, but often wondered if anyone ever found my abandoned truck or what became of those lost souls trapped inside.
Thank you for joining us for today's spine-chilling episode. We hope you enjoyed these haunting tales and found them as captivating as we did. If you liked what you saw, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more eerie stories. Stay tuned for our next adventure.